Today we are going to explore a fascinating and often misunderstood psychic ability, clairaudience. Clairaudience simply means clear hearing. In previous videos in this series, we've covered clairsentience, which is clear feeling, and clairvoyance, which is clear seeing. Clairaudience is just as common, but it often gets less attention. This video will cover what clairaudience is, how it might already be working in your daily life, and how you can develop it further. Clairaudience is the psychic ability to receive information through perceived auditory channels. It is the practice of hearing psychically, hearing beyond the normal physical range of sound. When you experience clairaudience, you pick up on subtle energy and translate it into sounds, words, or music. Before we continue, let's try a short awareness exercise. If you are in a place where it's appropriate for you to do so, close your eyes and take a few slow, deep, relaxing breaths, feeling the air moving through you and the tension leaving your body. Now simply start to notice the sounds around you. Distant traffic, the hum of the air conditioner, your heartbeat, a ticking clock, soft rustle in the air. Notice how your mind tries to label and categorize what you are hearing. Instead of assigning meaning to these sounds, just listen. Treat each sound as a connection between your inner self and the outside world. Now open your eyes. You can continue this exercise in a more expanded version all on your own. This exercise reminds us that we're always hearing, even when we're not paying attention. Practicing this kind of mindful listening can help you develop deeper listening skills and explore your own powers of clairaudience. Think of how a radio works. The air is filled with invisible frequencies, but you can't hear a local radio station without a receiver. When you turn on a radio and tune it into the correct frequency, that invisible signal becomes music or words. Your mind works in a similar way. Clairaudience is simply your internal receiver picking up a broadcast and translating it into sound. This ability typically shows up in two ways: perceived internal clairaudience and perceived external clairaudience. In actuality, these are both internal. Internal clairaudience is when you perceive the sounds as happening inside your mind. It often sounds like your own inner voice. You might hear a sudden word of warning, a helpful phrase, or a song lyric that pops into your head. Because it sounds like your own thoughts, it's very frequently dismissed. External clairaudience sounds like it's coming from outside of your body. You might hear your name called when you're alone, a soft ringing or buzzing, or a faint conversation that sounds like a distant radio. Before we can develop clairaudience, we need to address some common myths and clear up some misunderstandings. Hollywood movies often portray psychic abilities so dramatically, and this leads to unrealistic expectations. We want to ground our practice in reality. Myth number 1 is that clairaudience should always sound like a booming voice coming from the sky. Many people expect intuitive guidance to sound like a theatrical narrator. In reality, clairaudient messages are usually quite subtle, quiet, and neutral. They rarely yell unless you are in immediate danger. Most of the time, your internal voice is quite calm. Myth number 2 is that if you hear voices, it's always a symptom of mental illness. This is a common fear, and it's natural to worry about mental health when discussing hearing voices. The key difference between clairaudience and mental illness is the nature of the messages. Clairaudient guidance is always supportive, calming, neutral, and protective. It doesn't demand obedience, belittle you, puff up your ego, or cause you distress. It simply offers guidance, leaving you in complete control of your choices. If you are concerned or wondering if you're suffering from a disorder, always consult with a competent medical professional. Myth number 3 is that the messages will always be profound and life-altering. We often expect intuitive guidance to reveal the secrets of the universe to us. However, clairaudience is usually quite down-to-earth and practical. It often deals with everyday details because that's where we spend most of our time. Don't dismiss messages just because they seem simple. Here's how clairaudience might show up in your daily life. Imagine you're driving to work on your usual route. A quiet voice in your mind suddenly says, "Take the highway." It sounds like your own inner voice, but it's interrupting your current train of thought. You listen and you take the highway, only to find out later that there was a huge traffic jam on your normal route. That's clairaudience in action. It might also manifest in music. You might wake up with an old song in your head that you haven't heard or thought of in years. When you look up the lyrics, you find the exact advice that you needed for a problem. This is your intuition using a song to send you a message. Clairaudience can frequently show up as a warning. Imagine that you're about to sign a lease for a new apartment. As you hold the pen, you hear a clear, firm "don't" in your mind. It's so distinct that it makes you pause. Trusting that inner voice, you decide to wait and do more research, only to discover numerous complaints about the building's management and maintenance. Developing clairaudience takes practice and a willingness to listen. In a world full of noise from television, podcasts, traffic, etc., you must train your ears to hear the subtle whispers of your intuition. Here are 3 practical exercises to help get you started. Exercise 1 is called sound isolation. This exercise helps train your focus and expand your auditory awareness. Find a comfortable place to sit and close your eyes. Take a few deep breaths to center yourself. First, listen to the sounds immediately around you, like your breathing or the hum of an appliance. Focus on these nearby sounds for 1 minute. Next, shift your awareness outward. Try to hear sounds from outside your room or building, such as the wind, rustling leaves, or distant traffic. Focus only on those distant sounds for 1 minute. Finally, try to hear the faintest, most distant sounds possible. This practice teaches you to direct your auditory focus, a key skill for tuning in to subtle clairaudient messages. Exercise 2 is the inner voice. Clairaudient messages frequently sound like your own inner voice. To tell the difference, you need to understand your normal pattern of mental chatter. Sit quietly for 10 minutes with a relaxed body and closed eyes. Let your thoughts wander and observe them without judgment. Notice the tone, pace, and emotion of your everyday thoughts. Often, the ego mind is anxious, repetitive, and emotionally charged. Thoughts tend to race and worry about the future or replay the past. Once you know what your normal inner dialogue sounds like, you'll more easily recognize when a clairaudient message drops in. These messages are different. They often arrive suddenly, interrupting your train of thought with a neutral, calm tone and delivering information without emotional weight. By auditing your normal thoughts, these intuitive interruptions will become clearer. Exercise 3 is the music library meditation. Your intuition can use a vast library of sounds, words, and music to communicate with you. Sit quietly and ask your intuition a specific question, like, "What do I need to know about my career path?" Close your eyes, clear your mind, and ask your intuition to send you a song. Pay attention to the first song or melody that comes to mind. Don't judge what comes up, even if it's a silly pop song or a commercial jingle. Just write it down. Later, look up the lyrics or think about the feeling that the song evokes. You might be surprised by how accurately the message answers your questions. Frequently, the song will pop up in your mind at a later time when you're not expecting it and not trying to think of it. Receiving a clairaudient message is only half of the equation. Understanding it is the other half. Interpreting these messages requires a bit of detective work. First, consider the context. Pay attention to what you were doing or thinking right before you heard the message. For example, if you're thinking about a new business partnership and suddenly you hear a loud ringing in your right ear, it could be a sign to pay closer attention to that partnership. The timing of the message is often the biggest clue to its meaning. Embrace the symbolism you receive. We often want messages to be literal, but intuition often speaks in symbols. Water could represent the need to let your emotions flow, or it could represent a fluid situation. or even a suggestion to visit the ocean. When you hear a word or phrase, ask yourself, what does this mean to me? How is this speaking to me? Frequently, it's good to trust your first impression. Your first instinct about a message's meaning is usually the right one. Our logical brain will often jump in and try to overanalyze or dismiss the message because it doesn't make sense. Learn to trust that initial flash of understanding. The best way to improve your interpretation skills is to document your experiences. You can use a notebook or even a voice memo app on your smartphone. Whenever a song pops into your head or your ears ring or you hear a clear word, record it. Note the time, what you were doing, the message, and your initial interpretation. Over time, you will start to notice patterns. Maybe a ringing in your left ear always comes before a stressful event, serving as a warning. Or perhaps your intuition uses classic rock songs to give you advice. A journal can help you to decode your unique intuitive language. Clairaudience is a natural ability that anyone can access. You don't need to be a magical adept or a spiritual master. You just need to slow down, clear your mind, and listen. Your intuition is always trying to communicate with you, offering guidance and support. To hear it, you just need to understand how Clairaudience works, recognize your inner voice, and practice listening. Be patient. Like any skill, it develops over time. Start with the small exercises I've given you. Pay attention to the songs that pop into your head or the quiet, neutral voice that cuts through your daily thoughts. Ask yourself what was happening or what you were thinking when these things came up. With practice, that quiet whisper can become a reliable source of guidance. I encourage you to take a few minutes today to sit in silence and just listen. Begin the process and know that you have the power of clairaudience available to you right now. It just needs to be developed. Thank you so much for spending some time with me today. If you haven't done so already, please make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and click the notification bell so you'll always know when I have new videos. Until next time, blessed be.